Oh, no music today. Anyone, hi everyone, and welcome to another AFTV Live. I'm your host, Laurie, and joining me on the show today, I've got two very special guests. Let's start with my guy, Dan, who many people say is the best thing to come out of Colchester. And I'm not talking about Perry Groves. I'm talking about my guy, Dan Potts.
Come on, man. Big up. Thanks for having me, man. I'm no Perry Groves, man. I might have a little bit of ginge like him on my beard, but yeah, that's about the only thing I can say.
Are you as quick as him? Because back in the day, he was a quick youth, man.
No, when I was, do you know what, Laurie? Right, I was really quick and I was really good running when I was young. When I was really young, I was quite a quick.
Oh well.
Yeah, they ain't happening now, man.
Must be something in the water in Colchester, man. Because
maybe what it is,
one of his, he's a good player. One of his assets, though, was that he was very quick across the ground. So.
Yeah, I was a big lover of Perry. I met him a few times. Nice guy as well.
Yeah, he seems a good pundit as well. Good pundit. Without any further ado, I've also got to welcome my man Stricto in the building. One of my favourite AFTV personalities and characters, Mr. Season Ticket Stricto. How are you doing, sir?
If the season tickets weren't on my phone, I'd probably dash it, bro. Yeah. They weren't digital, I'd probably dash it again. But
yeah. Well, listen, without any further ado, let's get into it. I don't know if you guys know, but May the 8th is VE Day, victory in Europe, but it was certainly no victory in Europe for Arsenal. Dumped out of the Champions League by PSG of France, lost in Paris last night 2-1. We're also beaten at the Emirates 1-0. It's pretty comprehensive to me. I thought we were beaten by the better side. Congratulations to PSG. The manager seems to think we were the better side. Don't quite know what he's watching, but we'll talk about all that. But before we get into all that, let's start with Dan. Your overall thoughts on the game last night. You've had close to 24 hours to digest it and, pick the bones out of it. What's your thoughts?
My thoughts, if I'm honest with you, bro, was I feel like we lost that in the first leg. I really feel like we should have done a hell of a lot better at home. I went into it with a disadvantage, believing we were probably not going to get through the tie. I actually predicted 1-1. Unfortunately, it was more than that, and we lost 2-1. But I will say this. I thought the first 15 or 20, Arsenal give a little bit of heart and intensity. Unfortunately, through there, it kind of died. And I didn't really see much from the manager to change it or to try and look to do something a little bit different. And that, I suppose, was probably my biggest disappointment of the night, really. Now, a lot of people were saying to me, what could he have done? Well, I didn't see Ethan Nwaneri come on. I didn't see a change in formation. We needed 2 goals. We brought on 2 fullbacks and we had 6 defenders on the pitch still. I thought maybe we could have gone 3 at the back, lump it long, maybe stick Marino and Trossard up front together, maybe Martinelli through the middle. Maybe Ethan comes on for our captain who's been stinking out the gaff for a few months now. I do believe there's more that he could have done, and I just felt like it was a little bit of a stubbornness again. And I'm looking at it thinking you're a very reactive manager, not a proactive manager. Having said that, I thought PSG were actually the best side across the 2 legs. I think they deserve to go through. And I know a lot of people are bringing up stats and XG as to why Arsenal were the better side and all this rubbish. For me, I thought they've got a better front three. They've got a better manager and they've got a trio in midfield that's balanced. We've got a defence, a trio that's probably not balanced, but on paper looks pretty good, and no attack. And, I said this to James at the end. I said, if we've both got some steak and you've got a steak knife and I've got a spoon, one of us is going to struggle. Yeah. And it's going to be that's what we are right now. We ain't got no attack. We've got nothing in front of goal that looks threatening enough. And I don't think the manager has helped with that at all, in my opinion. So that's where I'm at with it. My kind of brief thoughts. I don't have the confidence that Mikel Arteta can get us across the line. I know a lot of other people do. I know Stricto is one of those. I've got a lot of time for people with difference of opinions. I just need to see evidence that he can win me something before I start to go down that road. And I really believe that if he was going to win this Champions League, that we'd have a great chance of then going, do you know what? Fair play. Let's move forward. We've won the Champions League, champions of Europe, go into the summer. Unbelievable season. And unfortunately, it's one of the most disappointing ones. And we go into the summer again, needing a hell of a lot more players. So that's how I'm feeling right now, brother, if I'm honest.
No, you know what? Obviously, you're clearly entitled to your opinion. A lot of what you said makes sense. In fact, a lot of what you said was reiterated by people I spoke to last night at the box bar. You was in the box bar, full house, full of Arsenal fans. A lot of disappointment in the air, and yeah. So what you've said there, a lot of fans are saying it. You're not in isolation. Stricto, moving on to you. So it's good to have you on the panel because it balances it out nicely. I haven't got to play devil's advocate because I know you're an advocate of Mikel Arteta, or certainly you were before last night. But before we get into the, before we deep it, as they say, your overall thoughts on the game last night. Just a brief summary of you of what you saw or what you took from the game last night.
To be honest with you, I think a lot of what Dan said is hard to argue against. To be fair, I think he's pretty spot on with his summarization of last night. I do think the tie was lost in the first at Emirates. I think if we showed the intensity we showed in that first 20 minutes at PSG and the whole of the 90 minutes at the Emirates, we might be having a different conversation today. And I think we never made home advantage count one bit as the way we did against Real Madrid. But the second leg, the boys, you could see we gassed out that first 20 minutes. We put everything into it, like physically pressing them, pushing them, high intensity, deliberate. We were very intentional. But then after a while, once we didn't take those chances, I feared what would happen. But I think also we must also add one of the major differences. PSG, when they played us, we beat them off the park at Emirates during the qualifying rounds or during the group stages. And then they went and made an investment in Tabasco.
Double K, call him Special K.
Yeah, Tabasco, that guy, they went and done that. And look how he's improved their team and he's improved their attack. And that's essentially what the difference is. Like Dan made a great analogy there. If man's got a knife for a steak and man's got a flipping spoon, then yeah, you guess who's going to eat their steak quicker. Do you know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, they were able to...
Robbie eats steaks pretty quick without a knife, so...
I'll say that again?
I see my brother clean up steaks without a knife pretty quickly. But anyway, carry on.
I can't, I can't even argue that.
Me neither.
We know which brother you're talking about as well. So yeah, no one's going to argue that. Robbie probably dashes the spoon and just starts using his hands to you know what I'm saying, to get in there. But yeah, I think essentially that's what it boils down to. Like PSG were able to leave the Emirates 2-0 down and realize that they needed to make major change, major investment, and they were able to do it in the window. Now, we had a very poor summer, very, very poor summer, and we couldn't even match it in the January transfer window. That's how bad it was. So essentially, as a famous activist once said, the chickens have come home to roost. And essentially that's what happened. We got to see the profit in our failure over the two transfer windows. It's as simple as that. I know everyone talks about Nwaneri. Everyone talks about, we could have put him on. And yes, I would agree at some point that, we had to throw the kitchen sink. And I felt that Mikel didn't do that. I felt like we needed goals. And at the point when Timber got injured, surely change the shape, surely bring on an attacker. I know we don't have wealth of an attack on the bench, but bring on an attacker, change the shape. But you're doing a like-for-like change, and I didn't understand why you're still trying to be balanced in a game that is literally slipping minute by minute. And things like that is where I find it so hard to defend Mikel, as much as I'm a big advocate for Mikel. But there's things he does where I cannot defend. I really cannot defend, and I can't even put the logic to see what he was doing there. Throw the kitchen sink. At least if we lose, then do you know what I'm saying? We go down on our shield.
Yeah.
But he didn't do that, and a lot of people, rightfully so, will call for his head. But
I must admit, Stricto, you're not alone in that. I mean, Dan will tell you, we was at the box park and there was people looking like bewildered, as if to say, what is going on? What as this young man upset Arteta or something? Because we just couldn't understand it. But talking of Arteta, there was something I wanted to ask you briefly. I touched on it at the start of the show. So after the fallout of the game, there's a lot of people talking about Mikel Arteta's post-match comments, and I want to know briefly what you guys think. I mean, to sum it up, to paraphrase, he's basically said that we were the better team last night. We were the better team over the 2 legs, and he's gone further than that by saying that we were the best team in the competition. And I'm pretty sure he said that. I'm not just like saying out of the blue. Dan, what do you make of those comments? Because I must admit, man, I thought those statements were utterly bizarre, and I've got to say, somewhat disingenuous
and somewhat arrogant, in my opinion. I've heard him say a few things that I'm a little bit embarrassed for him about, if I'm honest, and that was one of them. I'm going to bring up some examples now of not just last night, but actually why I believe this manager is losing his head a little bit, or is at least feeling a little bit of pressure. I'm going to come to those comments in a minute, but let's wind back a little bit further, because around about February time, when we struggled with injuries and everybody was talking about us needing players and how January was a shambles, he made the comparison that anybody else would be in 15th place and out of every single competition. So what he's done to get this team to second and still in the Champions League is nothing short of genius. I thought that was really arrogant, if I'm honest with you, and I thought it was excuses. Then he moved forward to saying, again, only a few days ago, actually, that Liverpool this time last season and the season before are very lucky that Arsenal and City didn't turn up, because that's the only reason that they've won the league. Well, the league season isn't over yet. There's 3 more games to go, and Liverpool can get, I think, 92 points if they win those 3 games. So I think that's a really, really crazy thing to say, and I think it's really disrespectful to what Arne Slot and Liverpool have done this season. They've clearly been the best side. They would have won the league most seasons. If you get to 90-odd points, you're looking at it thinking, yeah, you've done very, very well, particularly if you get over 90 points.
Yeah.
A few weeks before that, he said over his dead body is the league's title done, which was a crazy, crazy statement to make. And everyone thought it was quite funny that we were rival fans, because they all thought Liverpool were going to quite easily and comfortably win the league. And then he says last night that we're the best team in the competition. Well, we're not. We're out. I don't know if you realised that we're out now. PSG and Inter Milan are in the final. Arrogance becomes very dislikable. And I think most Arsenal fans and rival fans will probably have a lot of respect for him, Laurie, if those scenarios were to come again. And instead of saying we should be 15th and out of everything, saying, do you know what, injuries are part of the game. We're going through a rough time at the moment, but we can't make excuses. We've got to use our squad. We've got to believe in what we can do and go from there. Yeah, that's more of a normal, humble scenario as opposed to blaming, making excuses. Instead of saying over your dead body, you say we're going to keep fighting. It's not over mathematically, but it's going to be very difficult. A lot of people would then be quite, you know what, he's humble about it. He appreciates it. And then, of course, to then go and be disingenuous to Liverpool, I think what he needs to do is actually praise them and say, do you know what? We found it tough this year. They've been so good. They've been faultless. They haven't lost many games, and they deserve to win this league, and fair play to Arne Slot. And last night, he should have done the same with Enrique, who was very nice when he came out, by the way, and was very nice when he lost to us in October, November time and said, this team are very good. When I look at what Arteta has done in those scenarios, I don't feel with any confidence that this guy knows what he's doing. I think he's feeling the pressure massively, and he's looking for everybody else but himself to blame. And I don't like that about him, bro.
Yeah, you know what? A lot of what you say there, I agree with. And listen, on the way home from Box Park, Dan, I tuned into TalkSport on my way home and listened. They spent about an hour ripping just Arteta for those comments. Comments, by the way, that apparently the PSG manager, Luis Enrique, has denied that he said to Arteta that they were the better team, because apparently Arteta had said, we were the better team, even their coach said so. Now, Enrique is on record as saying that he didn't say those comments. Stricto, same question to you. What did you make of Arteta's post-match comments?
I'll be honest with you, I don't think I was even paying attention to that. I ain't gonna lie to you, I was sort of like, you know, I was on a stream last night on my YouTube channel, Strict, for those of you who can. So I did sort of hear the noise around that, and obviously Dan had just said that again. And for me, see, I don't even mind a bit of that, to be honest with you. I really don't.
You don't mind a bit of schadenfreude when we're winning, Stricto, but when we've just been humbled like that, surely, like Dan says, you just pay respects to
Yeah, I mean,
your
respect is
manager.
definitely the minimum. I think you should always congratulate your opponents first and foremost. Like that's
Pay respect and keep it moving. Because one thing I would say about that as well. Sorry to interrupt, but one thing I would say is that if you minimize your opposition, really you're making yourself look worse, isn't it? So if I beat you at chess, Stricto, and I say, yeah, he was crap, or you weren't very good, I was way better. Or if you beat me and I say, yeah, you weren't very good, what does that make me look like? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, of course. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm saying it in the sense that I don't mind a bit of like, because sometimes, but I suppose the difference is all the other managers who do come across saying stuff like that have won stuff. You remember Jose Mourinho saying stuff of that nature, and he would call other managers specialist in failure and all that voyeur and some other words. I don't mind it. Do you know what I'm saying? I think it's refreshing, but I suppose the difference is when you're not winning, it makes you like a bit of a plonker. Do you know what I'm saying? You're like a bit of a fool.
It's a bit empty.
It's
a
empty.
bit empty.
It's empty. Like, yeah. You just come across like a I don't want to say the P word, but that's kind of what you come across. But also I think I caught some bit he said. I don't know whether or not I caught it right, but he said something about the difference is PSG had a striker. Don't look. This was on where was I watching it? Was it B? Who was on BT yesterday, wasn't it? Yeah, it was on BT. I'm sure he said they had a striker in the box, something on those lines. And I thought to myself, so you can acknowledge that. So that is not a secret that teams are allowed to play with strikers. And once I had that thought, I was like, now, was that him essentially saying it loud enough so the board can hear it? Or was that him again succumbing to like stupid points or stupid comments that I don't know. But there's some parts of his stuff he says that I don't mind it. But of course, when you don't win, you just look stupid. You just look dumb. And some of the chats you need to back it up with trophies. All this finishing second. Yes, we're unlucky with injuries, but my disappointment with last night was that it just felt like we never gave it a goal, or a real goal over the two legs, bar the 20 minutes we had in the first half. And that's my disappointment. And even being lucky enough to lose 1-0 at the Emirates, you'd have thought, all right, boys, we're lucky today. Tomorrow, let's just turn it up. And even a manager, you've got to turn it up. You've got to have the intensity on the touchline. You've got to be able to get us over the line from the touchline. You've got to be able to make Martinelli think, hold on, I'm not pulling my weight. I'm gonna get hooked off it. I'm gonna get hooked off in the 50th minute. Do you know what I'm saying? You've got to be able to put that psychological sort of pressure on the players, and I think he makes sort of the players feel comfortable. Like you remember Wenger had that a few times with Özil, where you think, bro, take Özil off, it's not working, and you're prepared to die on that hill, and he's prepared to die on this whole Odegaard hill. Odegaard stunk up the place, and this is the hill you want to die on. It's not even worth dying. At least even with Özil, you could say to a degree that's a better hill to sort of rest on. But with Odegaard, he's stunk up all season.
We're going to talk about Odegaard. I mean, just briefly, I would say I thought we made a good start. First thing I want to say is, some of the rival fans are saying we bottled it. I don't think we bottled it. For me, it was a case that we just weren't good enough. To me, there is a clear separation between us and the elite teams of Europe. We're not there yet, and I think last night showed that. I thought we did well for the first 15 minutes, really well, but the problem with that was we didn't score. Once you don't score against a team like PSG, and you allow them back into it and they score, it was always going to be a serious uphill battle from there. And once they scored, I never really thought we were going to overhaul it. But there is a question I do want to ask you. It kind of goes to the heart of this discussion. Start with Dan. So Dan, with this season, 3 games to go, obviously the Premier League's gone. That went, if you ask me, that went when we lost to West Ham back in February. So that's gone. We're out the Carabao Cup, the FA Cup, out of the Champions League. So that's no trophies this season. No one trophy in the last 5 years. I guess to those who know you, it's probably a bit of a silly question because you've spoken about it several times. But for the benefit of this show, do you think Mikel Arteta has what it takes to win major honours with Arsenal? And if not, why?
So my simple answer is no, I don't. And the reason as to why is because I've seen no evidence that he can get us across the line. It's not just last night, Laurie, if I'm honest. It isn't just last night. This goes back in time. And it's not even the fact that when people say to me, do you think Arsenal were going to win the league this season? My answer is no, because I didn't think we were good enough for him to get us across the line. Where I differ is I think this squad's good enough to win a trophy. So when people say to me, oh, how can you be so angry? We didn't win the league. You didn't expect us to. No, I didn't. But I actually had us to win a domestic cup this year. I felt like we had enough to go all the way at Wembley and go and enjoy a good day at Wembley, get Champions League football and go and win a trophy. Even if it's runners up, go and win a trophy. I had us down to finish second and I had us down to win one of the domestic cups. Now, when we got to the semi-final of the Carabao, it looked like it was going to be more likely that we were going to win that one. The FA Cup was a shambles again. And where I look at it, this guy is allergic to silverware at the moment. And that is what worries me. Because as much as I've seen some good things and he deserves praise to get us challenging again and we're going up against Cities and Liverpool's now, that's great. We want to be there at all times. But we should be winning trophies alongside that. It shouldn't be one or the other. And I believe Mikel Arteta only has ever been able to go all out in one competition. So the first season he won the FA Cup, but we were out of everything else, right? He had nothing else to compete for. The league was never on. Season after season after season, we started to see, well, now we're just going for the Champions League spot, or now we're just going for Champions League spot. Oh, we're in the Champions League, now we're going for the league. Bigger fish to fry. It's only ever been one competition. Now, I'm not saying that it's easy to win doubles and quadruples, but you need to be going in deep stages of competitions in all four. This is Arsenal. We're not Everton where we get a nice little run and think, crikey, this is a once in a blue moon. This is not how it works at Arsenal and how it never should have been. And unfortunately, for the last 2 decades, the majority of the newer fans have seen this. And they're like, hang on a minute, what's everyone moaning about? We're not 8th anymore. We're 2nd. This is unbelievable. Well, I've been supporting Arsenal since 1992. And I saw strikers like Ian Wright and Merce and Alan Smith. That's what I grew up on. Yeah. And then Bergkamps and Anelkas and Henry's come in. Not trying to play Havertz, Jesus and Marino up there. So where we're at now is poor, in my opinion. And I think if you look at it, every single scenario that we've had since he's won that FA Cup, we've won 2 FA Cup games since we won it in COVID. One of them was against Oxford. The other one was against Palace. So this guy's not taken that seriously. The League Cup, at every hurdle, we've thrown it in the bin. We were the disgrace in the semi-final against Newcastle. And that's the 6th, I think, now semi-final he's played in. And he's finally scored 1 goal out of the 6 semi-finals that he's been in. Obviously, since he won the FA Cup, that is. So when it matters, when it gets to a point where I'm like, go on, do it, we fail. This season, it mattered against West Ham in the league. We bottled it. We were 2-0 up against Villa at home. We threw it away. Manchester United at home, out of the FA Cup. Newcastle, home and away, battered. Then you look at the scenario of Newcastle away in the league, Bournemouth home and away. There's been too many times that I've been doubting this manager when the pressure gets on. And then you look at the Europa League wins and his record in Europe. It's been a phenomenal record to get to the semi-final. Beating Real Madrid was something we'll always remember. It will be a great night, but unfortunately it will be recognised as a great night that nothing really happened after. So when I look at him going out in the Champions League now against Bayern Munich and PSG, I'm not annoyed because we went out to 2 shocking sides. But if you add to that the Europa League when we lost to Emery's Villarreal and Ruben Amorim's Sporting Lisbon and Olympiacos, that does kind of peeve me off. So that's where I'm at. And just lastly, this whole striker scenario that Stricto was talking about, I really find it difficult to believe when sections of the fan base say to me, the board have said and the owners have said, there's 700+ million, don't buy a striker, but just buy everything else. He's decided to try and go with Havertz and Jesus, and it hasn't worked out. Everybody's been screaming Arsenal need a striker since Aubameyang has gone. And we've decided for whatever reason not to replace him. And the other question mark I have about why I don't believe he's the guy is the attack-minded players that we've had at this club, other than Saka, have all failed under Mikel Arteta. Whether it's Aubameyang being shifted out, Lacazette going, Eddie and Nketiah failing, Reece Nelson, Smith Rowe, Fabi Vieira not being the guys. Then you look at the scenario with Pepe. Then you look at the scenario with Willian and Sterling. Martinelli people want upgraded. Where is the improvement in the attack? For someone who's played alongside Pep Guardiola He was managed alongside Pep Guardiola and looked at some of the Sergio Agueros and Raheem Sterling in his day and etc. And for someone who played at PSG with Joe Koch and Ronaldinho, I would have thought that actually the attack-minded was where he wanted to go. But it seems now he wants to be very rigid, stacked at the back, very rigid and balanced and compact in midfield, and then like just use one moment's player now and again up top. But everyone else has to be defending. So disappointed, Laurie, if I'm honest. I don't see how this guy can get us across the line. I've just got to be honest.
Okay, thanks. Before I bring you in, Stricto, just super chat need to address here. What's he saying? PGOMOL, thank you very much for super chat. It says Arteta is sounding like Ty. How can you be the better team if you lose both legs? You can't even question him without getting rattled. Well, you know what? I kind of agree with that. There's no way we were the better team. Listen, we lost both legs, and that's that. Period. We were not the better team. Simple as. Stricto, how do you address that question I put to Dan Potts about Arteta? Do you think he's got what it takes to win us a major honour anytime soon?
Getting hard to defend, man. It's getting hard to defend. Because ultimately, I want to disagree with everything Dan said, but it's hard for me. It's hard for me to disagree with it. But I will say this in regards to not having a striker. What season was it that we seemed to get 90-something goals?
Last season, wasn't it?
Was it last season or the season before? And you know, and for me, I think where I sort of agree with Dan is, I just don't. I've never understood the whole Havertz thing. I think for me, that's if there was a turning point for me with Mikel, it was the whole Havertz thing. And I couldn't say for sure who was responsible for that signing, whether it was Edu or Arteta or both of them or not. I couldn't tell you. To this day, that signing blocks so many things from happening. So if we wanted to get a striker, then the next question is, where does Havertz play? If you want to get a midfielder, where does Havertz? It literally blocks. It's like when you play checkers or chess, when you got a piece that just blocks you making moves that you need to make. And that's what the Havertz thing is. And on top of that, he's on a lot of money, one of the highest paid players at the club. So then it becomes, you know, it just kills us on so many fronts. Now, the question is, do I think he can get us over the line? I like to think so. I like to believe in all the things Mikel was built in his time at Arsenal. I like to believe he's got the fans behind him. I like to believe, you know, that whole culture that he's built, that sort of that sense of feeling unique. But ultimately, those things don't result to trophies, then it really don't matter. And at this moment in time, a League Cup, a FA Cup, all of that sort of, I don't think that's even enough, if I'm being honest with you. I don't think that's even enough. I think it's okay, but it's not enough. And if that isn't even enough, then why are you here? Because the ones that everyone want, you know, the ones that the Ten Hag is doing wasn't enough, and they still got rid of him, and you can't even meet that quota. You know, so I hear it, but there's just a belief that I can't even quantify or prove why I think he's good enough, other than I've seen him take us out of the mud. And I'd like to believe maybe if we did have a striker, listen, let's make no bones about it. We need more than a striker.
Oh yeah,
a striker. We need more than a striker. Now, one sort of thing I would say is, you can't legislate for the miss that Martinelli missed yesterday. Over the two legs, he's had great chances that would probably have turned the tide. You can't legislate for the miss that Saka missed. You can't legislate as a manager for the missed passing that Kivior made, or the error that Partey is doing at the edge of the box that allows Carrasco guy to score. You can't legislate for those things there, and essentially those are the fine margins there. You can't even legislate for Miles Lewis-Skelly, who's had a great season thus far, literally having a stinker yesterday. You know, it wasn't the Miles Skelly that we've become used to. Now you look at other players of his age in that game. You look at Barcola, you look at Doué, these guys seem to have relished in it. And I'm not saying Skelly didn't, but I'm just saying yesterday he just didn't perform to the level we've seen him perform. You know, so look, there are margins where you look at it and you just think, right, if Martinelli had his shooting boots on, then we go 1-0 up in the first 4 minutes and we turn the tide. But it doesn't, and those are the fine margins, and those are the differences that can make and break a manager, you know. But ultimately, everything else that Dan said, I agree with. I do agree with.
I hear that. I guess the rebuttal to that is it's the manager, they're his players, he picks a team. If he didn't think Martinelli was good enough, then he shouldn't have selected him, or he should have maybe, you know, got rid of him in January or whenever, you know. But anyway, I want to know what you guys think about this comment here. Because this kind of goes to the root of the problem as well, to be honest. Odegaard. Now, I've got to be honest with you, man. I felt a little bit sorry for Odegaard last night.
Stop that rubbish now. Stop that feeling sorry. Stop that feeling sorry.
Okay. All right. Maybe not feeling sorry, but how can I phrase it without upsetting Stricto? What I'm going to say is like, so he had that great shot, probably the best shot he's taken all season. And I would venture to suggest there's only a couple of keepers in the world with the wingspan to keep that out. Now, one is Donnarumma, obviously, and the other one's Courtois. Both of those men are massive guys, 6'8". He was able to tip it round the post. Had that gone in, then I think we might have done a lot better in that game. And certainly Odegaard would have come out of the game with a lot more credit. But after that shot, the longer the game went on, the more he kind of disappeared from view. So in the final analysis, people are coming for him again. Dan, your thoughts on Odegaard this season? And do you think that his is a position, Stricto talked about, we need to bring in at least 4 or 5 players. Do you think his position in the team now is under threat?
Yeah, I'm kind of done defending him now, bro. And I've been one that's I've tried to do my best to say that I think he's technically gifted and he's got something and he's a good footballer. You don't become a bad footballer overnight, but unfortunately he's starting to prove that you can be. I think take all of the captaincy stuff and the questions away from it just for 1 second. Take away his leadership qualities and influence on the pitch. Let's just look at the quality of the player. It ain't there, Laurie, it ain't there. Like, no. I've seen for a while now. Do you know what? I can see saying, nah, it's not there. Decision making is not there. Yeah. Pass when you need to pass, shoot when you need to shoot. Have the confidence that you're good enough. And I haven't said that enough. So I've seen him invisible in games. I thought last night he became invisible. He's droppable definite at the moment, but certainly in games take him off if he's having a stinker. And this is where it comes down to the manager as well, because you're trusted in your guy. You can see he's not right. You can see he's not playing well. You can see he's underperforming, and you can see that he's dropped off a hill in terms of the last few months from where he should be. But you're doing nothing about it. You're not even bringing Ethan on to upgrade on him. And you said quite a few months ago now, I made a mistake by not bringing in Ethan when I thought he wasn't ready when he clearly is, when Odegaard was injured. Now Odegaard's stinking out the gaff and you're just leaving him on. Bring him into the game, man, or at least start him for the league game. So I think Odegaard at the moment is definitely droppable. I thought the performance last night was turned up when it was needed. And if I'm honest with you, the captaincy thing, which I'll touch on lastly, I think this season he's proven that he's not a leader and he's not a captain. He's a very good player and I'm sure he's great around the dressing room and I'm sure there's a lot of people that look up to him as a footballer. I'm sure that Mikel Arteta sees himself in him. I'm not denying any of that. But I see captains in my side, and it ain't Odegaard, it's Gabriel and Rice. Mm-hmm. When you see Saka getting a yellow card and giving it to the ref, you see other people other than Odegaard keeping him to calm down. When you see Partey getting suspended in that second leg of the Real Madrid game, you see Rice coming up and having a go at him. When you see Haaland squaring up to our players, Gabriel's in his face. These are the people that I look in my team saying, you're my leader, you're my captain. Odegaard's hiding away, flicking his hair, spinning around on the spot, pirouetting, passing it backwards and sideways. I'm sick of it, if I'm honest, Laurie. It's driving me insane. And I've been one that's been flip-flopping with Odegaard. When we signed him, I wasn't sure. I wanted James Maddison. And the reason I wanted Maddison was because at Leicester, he was balling out, doing 18s, 19s and 20s goals and assists. Thinking, wow, if he can do that at Leicester, what can he do? Now, I do actually think that's his funeral if he wants to go to Tottenham. That's up to him. But when I look at it, I still
He's also very injury prone as well.
Yeah, he can be. He's obviously out again now.
Yeah.
And then I looked at the season Ødegaard had, and I thought, oh, thank God we didn't buy Maddison, because Ødegaard's an absolute baller. 15 goals and assists were there as well. Since then, unfortunately, I thought he put me in the mud, but now I'm starting to turn the corner again, going, really, is the guy that we need. So I think we need a creative midfielder, and I think Ødegaard may be the 8. He may be the Bernardo Silva, not the KDB. That's my honest opinion. I think we might need to go and get that kind of Eze or Cunha. So we're not going to get Wirtz or someone like that. Alex Baena. Someone like that needs to come in my opinion, now. And Ødegaard might need to either be dropped or play alongside them and try and get back into the side. That's my honest opinion. And it's frustrating for me, man. It really is. But what's even more frustrating, lastly, Dory, is he's not going to have the captaincy stripped off of him. And he's going to play every game and remain in the team because Mikel Arteta believes in him. And he's his guy. So that's where I'm at.
Stricto, do you think the manager might look at making a change in that position? 3 more games to go, start with Liverpool this weekend. Do you see him maybe resting Ødegaard is the usual term, but meaning dropped? Or do you think he'll, as Dan says, persist with him?
What are you resting him for? What important games?
Resting is the euphemism that managers use when.
I mean, if you can't rest him in important games, why rest him on it? Let him play out. One thing I would say with Ødegaard and with most footballers, you create your own confidence. Your confidence, if it goes, you create it. You'll see some players who, they're low on confidence, but they never hide, they never shy, they're still trying, and eventually, once one thing happens successfully, you sort of rely on that and pick up again. He doesn't even try to create it. There was a chance he had to shoot yesterday, got in a great position where Ødegaard of old would have laced it up. Would have laced it up, and whatever happens. And he just seemed so scared to even do that. I had hopes that in this game yesterday that I said, you know what? Remember I spoke to you, I said, I think Ødegaard owes us one. He might pull up. He might pull up and just did absolute nothing. And what annoys me most about the form he's on is the hiding. I saw a clip the other day when someone said to me, we was on an attack. I can't remember who was carrying the ball. Ødegaard, there was space in front of Ødegaard. And I couldn't believe Ødegaard did not run into the space and make himself available for that ball. He literally, this is what he done. If they can't see me, they can't pass it to me. Literally, no. That is what he done. If they can't see me, they can't pass it to me. And I analyzed this clip, and I could not. I thought, nah, this must be AI. It has to be AI because this. Dan, I don't know if you've seen the clip. I'm going to
go back and look at it. Now you said it. Now I'm going to go back and look at it.
Was it West Ham? The West Ham game.
I can't even remember.
Yeah,
he did not make himself available.
Yeah, he hides basically. He's in a great opportunity, and he's like, no, and he backs out and he goes and hides behind them. I'm like, what are you doing? Yes.
I mean, if you look at the whole penalty sort of thing, right, where he gives it to Saka.
Yeah.
That tells me all I need to know. I get the whole the first time he did it, I think he gave it to Havertz, wasn't it? Tried to boost Havertz's confidence. There you go, you take it. That showed some sort of like leadership. But you might question it of like, hold on, maybe he didn't quite fancy the pressure. Maybe he wants to give it to the scapegoat. And if the scapegoat misses, then everyone, Havertz has missed again. Do you understand?
To be fair to him, no, Stricto, because I was at this game, so I can comment on this personally. When we played Man United, when we went out of the FA Cup, if you recall, Ødegaard missed a penalty during normal time. But when it was a penalty shootout, he did step up and score his penalty. And I thought at the time, you know what, fair play to him, because that does take guts. If you miss one during normal time, to take one in the penalty shootout and score it. Yeah.
You're giving him credit for doing what a captain's supposed to do.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
imagine if he didn't take a penalty.
No, but I've seen
at that point, you've got to strip him of his captaincy. At that point, you're an attacker. You're the captain. You're also a penalty taker. You've missed one. cool, no problem. Penalties are missed and penalties are saved all the time. That's not the issue. It's not about missing a penalty that's the issue. It's about hiding that's the issue.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to credit you for doing what you're supposed to do.
I see.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
So there's no credit in that. You could have missed both penalties for all I care, but you took it. You stepped up to take it. Now the hiding is becoming such a common theme. When things are going well, he doesn't want no part of it. He does not want no part of it. Dan touched on a great point. When Haaland was picking on Skelly, yeah. When Haaland was picking on, I've seen Dennis Wise, probably one of the smallest captains you will see in English football. Dennis Wise step up to what's the Palmer?
Yeah. No, but what I would say about that, Stricto, as they say, it's not the size of the dog, it's the size of the fight in the dog. And I've never really looked at, even in his finest moments, I've never looked at Odegaard as that type of player. I look at him as a kind of captain that leads by example. He's not vociferous.
Do you like that though, Laurie? Do you like that? Do you want that in your captain? Do you want someone who's a role model, or someone who like leads by the press and leads by example in the dressing room? Or do you want that guy who's barking orders and the one you don't mess with, the one that you listen to, the one that takes game by the scruff of the neck?
Yeah.
You
know what? Right. I don't think that there's any real like prototype that, you know what I mean, one size fits all. I think it depends. It really depends on the individual, because listen, we've had the Tony Adams type captains who are that sort of bulldog spirit, in your face, vociferous. And then we've had other captains that don't say that much. Aubameyang, Henry, you know what I mean?
Just sorry to cut you. I'll tell you what this is. I'll tell you what this is the scenario. I'll tell you what this is similar to. Let's go back to the Invincible season, right? Yeah. This is like giving the captaincy to Robert Pires or Freddie Ljungberg. That's what we're doing. Yeah, we're forgetting about Vieira. We're forgetting about Gilberto. We're not looking at Sol Campbell. We're not looking at Ashley Cole or Thierry Henry for those barking of orders, Bergkamp, etc. We're giving it to Pires because he leads by example. He looks the best, and he's consistent with his game and all that. Or Freddie Ljungberg, for example, we wouldn't have done that. So I just don't know why we're doing that. I just do.
No, but don't forget, Odegaard, and in answer to your question, Odegaard got the captaincy off the back of his back-to-back player of the season years. So I guess the manager was looking at him and thinking he's the type of guy, because don't forget, a captain in a football team is very much the personification of the manager. He carries out his instructions on the pitch. So he's obviously looked at Odegaard and thought, with the sheer work rate that he has on the pitch and the way he carries himself, he's the man I want to be the leader of this team. So when he was appointed captain, not too many people had a problem with it, to be honest. I think it's just...
I did.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Well, I wanted people to laugh at the guy I wanted. At the time, when there was a new captaincy, I wanted to give it to Kieran Tierney. Yeah, that's who I wanted to give it to, because that was the guy that had been there and had done it, and he's professional and he's got that kind of mentality. It was a winning mentality at the time. People laugh at Scotland, but trust me, when you go to Scotland, you got to win. It's not about coming second with your Celtic or Rangers. You got to win. So I looked at it for you. I'll be giving it to Kieran Tierney. Now, of course, back then, Kieran Tierney was playing every week, right? Back then, right? I would have given it to Gabriel over Odegaard. Gabriel's that guy who's barking orders. Gabriel's that kind of colossus at the back. Gabriel's the one who's taking it by the scruff of the neck. So for me, I would have given it to him. But I'm old school, Laurie. I like Tony Adams, Patrick.
No, that's fine. You know what I mean? I'm old school as well, and I like that. I guess to me, it's what I'm not trying to, you know what I mean, buck the question. I think it's whoever it works for. You know what I mean? Like I said, when he was appointed captain, no one really had an issue with it because he was playing so well. That everyone just went with it. You know what? I want to digress because I'm aware of time. There was a question I wanted to ask you guys, and it was something I was thinking about on the way home from the game last night. So us going out, obviously it's a disappointment, and obviously we've spoken about not winning any trophies this season. Do you think that they say, you know what I mean, there is no such thing as a loss. Every loss, there is a learning experience. Do you think that going out the Champions League last night, not winning anything this season, could be a watershed moment? Do you think that now Arteta, Berta and the likes in the board are going to sit down and say, listen, man, we're going to have to really get this sorted. Some players are going to have to leave. Some other players are going to have to come in. We may even have to alter our playing style. We're going to have to do things a little bit different. Do you think that they will look at the loss to PSG last night and think, right, for next season, we got to come different? Stricter, I'll start with you.
I personally don't think so. We've had enough sample size to see. I mean, this summer just went was the great time to sort of have that in practice, and we didn't. We lost the league by how many points? You'd have thought, okay, this is the summer where we need to strengthen in all areas, but especially specifically up front, and that didn't happen. And I think what will eventually happen is we're going to play the last 3 games. We'll probably win those 3 games, probably win at Anfield, and that sort of will just be. This game will sort of be forgotten. You know, football is very short. You know, a lot changes on a weekly basis. You know, we play 3 games, we win those 3 games, we win them handsomely. Players scoring is a good feeling, and then when the summer comes, we no longer need what we've been crying out all season, and it just peters out. Now, I would say this: I don't think Berta is a guy who wants to put his reputation on the line. In terms of he's known for bringing in players, he's known for doing his job, and he's recognized for doing his job. And I don't think he's going to sit there and twiddle his thumbs saying that, yeah, you know, let me try to save the club money. He's coming there with a reputation, and like all of us, we all got a reputation to uphold, and I don't think he's any different. So that's probably the only sort of hope that I have. But also saying that, I've seen it many a times when things just don't happen. Things that need to happen don't happen. What will happen is we'll probably just get a striker, because we seem to work in delay. You know, we seem to work in delay. We'll get the striker that we're supposed to have got a couple of summers ago. We'll get him now, and that will be it. Martinelli will be deemed good enough as left wing, even though we know other players are available. Even a goalkeeper situation. And I think most of it, if you're actually really deep, what really happens with us is we don't have that depth, and players get fatigued, mentally fatigued and physically fatigued. And if you get those two, you just don't have the will to push yourself over the line. You know, you're fragile mentally. You're very, very fragile mentally. Like we saw with Inter Milan and Barcelona, they kept going hammer and tongs over the two legs. You know, the only deciding factor in those 2 legs was time. Barcelona ran out of time, and Inter Milan did it. But with us, as soon as that goal goes in, the heads go down. The mental fatigue of having the same players who have played most of the games this season and expecting them to stand up chest high and get on with it is impossible, you know. So for me, I just think I won't be surprised that we see the same window slightly improved, maybe a striker, and I don't know who, but I'm just hoping that Berta is there to at least remember his reputation, and you know, his reputation is what's got him here.
Dan, similar question to you. So this guy Berta was brought in. He's got a big reputation. He's been watching all the games recently since he was appointed. I'm pretty sure that he's, you know, made notes, and you know, I mean, him and Arteta will sit down at the end of this season, and they'll be planning ahead for the season to come. They may even have sat down already. They probably have. Do you think that we're going to see, as a result of us, you know, not being successful this season, drastic changes? Or are you worried that things are going to stay the same? Or what's your thoughts on that?
So I think we're going to see drastic changes in terms of personnel. And I think that's why Andrea Berta has been appointed. And if I'm honest with you, Laurie, I think that's the best appointment in the Kroenke reign. Yeah. We're buying someone now that's got experience, that's been there, done it. And if you can handle the character of Diego Simeone, you should be able to handle anyone, right? So when I look at what he could do and we bring in, we can talk about positions and players we need. What I will say is, let's say we're realistic this summer, we bring in 5 players, right? Everyone wants a striker, everyone wants a winger, everyone wants a midfielder, and we need backups to defence and goalkeeper. There's 5 players there. Some people say we need more. Some people say we won't need that many, right? But let's just keep it simple. We'll go with that. Then it's up to Mikel Arteta. Now, let me tell you why I've got question marks. It's not about the net getting over the line for a second. Let's just talk about how he's been playing. Because we saw 3 at the back. We won an FA Cup with it. It was quite rigid. It was quite boring. Everyone was kind of struggling, but everyone said it was the players. Then we're going for a top 4 by bringing in Zinchenko and Jesus, and we're scintillating. No one can quite believe what they're seeing. They're thinking, wow, top 4, we're in a title race. We're 8 points clear. We were pamming teams. Then last season, we got a little bit more resolute and compact, and he was like, PTSD's got involved here. I don't want to throw this 8-point lead away. I'm going to rip it up, throw it away, scrunch it up and start again. And then this season, after throwing it away last season, he's again become even more arrogant and thinks, right, let's just forget about all the flair. Let's become rigid, compact and boring and concentrate more on throw-ins and set pieces. So what are we going to do next season? Is he going to crunch it up and start again and go back to reverting to one of those two ways? Is he going to continue to go to this boring Stoke City FC stuff that we get a lot of kind of hate from? Or is he going to go back to the kind of ways that we thought Arteta was going to do, looking at the Pep Guardiola style of football and the Klopp style? Because at least that was good to watch. And I always said this about Arsene Wenger. Yeah, it was good to watch. Now, it's absolutely fine playing boring football and winning 1-0, 2-1 like George Graham, Conte, Simeone or Mourinho. But when you ain't doing it and you're playing that way, you turn into Sam Allardyce pretty quickly, right? So for me, it's now about making sure that you're winning and you're winning in a way that's going to win us something. Because trust me, I don't care how we play if we're lifting trophies. I grew up on George Graham 1-0 to the Arsenal 2-1. Yeah, I used to look at Mourinho's letting in 15 goals but winning 2-1, 1-0. They won stuff. I don't care. We win it with trophies. I'd love to win it like Pep Guardiola or Klopp. That'd be amazing. But not every manager's like that. So for me, I think Arteta's got to pick a playing style next season that he believes is going to be allowing us to go forward and be competitive and win trophies. And the last thing I'll say is he needs to work out how to beat a low block, because any team that plays a low block against us, he can't beat it. It's draw, draw, draw. 13, 14 draws this season. That's
13 draws, man. 13 draws.
Enough, bro.
Yeah.
That's not good enough.
Yeah. Stricto, question for you. Do you think we've regressed this season? Some people might say that's a silly question, but when I say regressed, I mean, obviously, in terms of our league challenge we have, but do you look at Arsenal and think we're not? And I guess there is mitigation with the injuries and stuff like that, but do you think we've gone backwards, or do you think we stayed the same, or what? What's your thoughts?
I don't think we've improved. It's questionable to say we've regret. No, not quite. I mean, you can make an argument to say we've regressed if you're looking at the table, looking at the draws from last season. Again, we've gone obviously to this stage of the Champions League. We've beat one of the best teams to ever hold the Champions League. So there's moments you could say like we've done well, but I think overall, I don't think we've improved. And most importantly, the deciding factor is we haven't won a trophy. So it's just been the same, really. Nothing much has changed there. So you can argue about the style we're playing. You can argue about the injuries. You can argue about decisions, refereeing decisions. But these things happen to a lot of teams. And, there are teams that are sitting below us right now that I'm sure they're about to kick off in about 5 minutes, who look like at the end of the season they might have something to parade. So, yeah, I think it's pretty much been the same, to be honest with you. There's no trophy. So irrespective of who's playing and who's not playing, low block this, free flowing that, it's all the same. There's no trophy.
So Stricto thinks it's largely the same. Dan, have we stayed the same? Because we've definitely not got better. Have we stayed the same, or have we regressed? And is the reason for that the injuries, or do you think there's something wider than that that's the problem?
I think we've regressed. If I would have said to both of you before a ball was kicked, I'm going to let you know how the season pans out. We're not going to win the FA Cup. We're not going to win the Carabao Cup. We're not going to win the Champions League, but we are going to get to a semi-final, and we're not going to win the Premier League. If we're going to finish 20 to 25 points behind the winners, you'll go, yeah, Man City are pretty good, though. I'll say, nah, it weren't Man City who won it. It was Liverpool. Man City dropped off and dived off. So to go from 2 points behind to 22 points behind is clear regression. What do I put it down to? I put it down to the summer in January, right, and I put it down to the management in-game not being good enough. You can't draw that many games by playing that rigid football. It's got to change. Mikel has got to change it up. He's got to stop sitting on his hands and relying on set pieces and throw-ins. He's got to go and allow us to be free-flowing and score from open play as well. So I want to see a lot of changes, if I'm honest, next season. The season's done now. No point dwelling on it. We've got to move forwards. 3 games I don't really care about, if I'm honest. We just play what we play. And then we go into the summer, which I think is huge for the Arsenal.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, I think both of you make good points on that question. I mean, it was a bit of a nuanced question because, have we regressed? I think, yes, we have. But there have been mitigating circumstances, as I've been saying in the show, namely the injuries, not strengthening in January. So, yeah, I mean, we've had injuries to key players, especially the forwards. Saka was out for ages. Odegaard was out for ages. Havertz out, still out. Jesus out, still out. So I do think we would have done better had those players not, incurred those injuries. Having said that, though, Arsenal not the only club to suffer from injuries. Most clubs in the Premier League have had injuries to senior or some of their better players. So it's just part of the game, I'm concerned. Right, so we're kind of entering into the final straight. Well, we are in the final straight of the show. And there is a question I wanted to ask you. I've saved this one till last because it's possibly the most controversial question. Right, so following the game yesterday, there's been a lot of talk about the manager. And there is, I've got to say it, a growing faction of fans who express their displeasure with what Arteta's done this season. Some people want him out now, like my boy Curtis. He's saying, look, time's come. He needs to go. He's not going to deliver trophies. But if we're being honest, we all know that the club are not going to relieve Mikel Arteta of his job this summer. I don't expect to see that at all. I'd be shocked if that happened. So we got to assume that come the start of next season, Dan, he's going to be in charge. Hopefully by then he would have bought a couple of new players, let a few players go. My question to you, Dan, is how long do you give him? I mean, obviously results will be, you know what I'm saying? Like, obviously that's obvious, but how long do you give it? 3 months? Do you wait till Christmas or January? Or if it's not working, do you cut ties sooner? What do you say?
Well, I'm with Curtis because I would replace him now. However, it's not going to happen. We know he's staying. And that's why I believe the owners are not good for the club because they're accepting mediocrity. It's been too long, Laurie. 30 years without a European competition, over 30 now without a League Cup. We've got 21 without a Premier League title and 5 without an FA Cup. That's far too long to wait for the club the size of Arsenal, in my opinion. So for me, I would pull the plug now and I'd get in a manager that can come in. And people will say who's going to come in and do a better job. I can list a long name of a name.
Give me a few.
Okay, I'll give you two. Two of them are in the Champions League final. Oh, we can't get them. They're in the Champions League final. Well, Arteta's on more than them. Pay the money. £15 million a year. Only Pep and Simeone earns more. So Simone Inzaghi, Luis Enrique, Carlo Ancelotti, Diego Simeone. If you don't want one of those old school winners, go get Xabi Alonso. He looks like he can win, and he's young.
I think he's going to Madrid, though, isn't he, Xabi Alonso?
Well, they reckon he's going to Madrid.
Some names would go Iriola or people like that.
So the reason I don't want Iriola or Marco Silva or Thomas Frank or these guys is because they're just like Mikel. They're probably going to come in and do a good job, but are they going to get us across the line? The reason I want those names is because they've got a CV that says I win. Yeah, I've got a CV that says I've got credit in the bank. Diego Simeone at the moment is struggling, by the way. Yeah, the reason I take him is because I know that he's got credit in the bank by a CV that says I can win La Ligas, Super Cups, and Europa Leagues. And he's worked with Berta before, right? So that's why I'm looking at those people. Zidane is mentioned, but I don't think he's realistic enough. A lot of people are saying he doesn't want to come to England. So those, for me, are the guys that I would be looking at going for, a proven winner. You know, when Liverpool had Brendan Rodgers and they had to get Klopp, yeah? Back in the day when Man City had Mark Hughes, they had to go and get the likes of Mancini and Pellegrini, and now, of course, Pep. You had like Ranieri who had to go and get Mourinho. That's where we're at. I feel like we are that. We've got a Ranieri or a Rodgers or a manager that we need to now go and get the elite. And I don't know that Mikel Arteta is the elite. So look, realistically, he's staying. Berta will come in this summer and help him. Hopefully, we get the right players in and we go again. In terms of how long we give him, I mean, if he looks like he's not going to win a title and a trophy, then you pull the plug. I don't know when that is. You probably have to look until the right way to the end of May again. If I'm honest.
Because if you say, "Oh, we'll give him till January," that's difficult because the chances are we would still be in the FA Cup in January.
Exactly. But you know, I think it's different with Amorim because I think what Man United have just shown no progress whatsoever. They might win the Europa League, and I still think they will, by the way. However, in terms of their league form, they've not really seen it. So by October, you get to Halloween and go trick or treat with Amorim, right? So you can say pull the plug or keep him. I think with Arteta, you're going in for the long haul again for another season, because we're probably going to be competing again. We have to wait right till the end to see where we're going with and how long we're going to be in these competitions. But for me, I would replace him with a proven winner right now. And that's what I would do. And then people, oh, but what happens then? Well, if in 2 years' time, let's say it's Diego Simeone, we haven't won, we talk about the discussion again until we get it right. It isn't about like, oh, you're stuck with him for 10 years now, mate. Sorry, you made the decision. No, you go again.
So you're sort of veering down that Chelsea, the old Chelsea, and the kind of.
I am, and people don't like that. Why don't they like that? That was successful for 2 decades. There's no reason why. There's no coincidence for the last 2 decades they've won the most. They might have had 15 managers, but they've had 20 trophies, mate. Give me 20 trophies. I don't care how many managers we have. God of the days, right, of Sir Alex Ferguson and Wenger. I looked at it earlier. Gasperini, Arteta, Pep, Simeone, Carlo Ancelotti, and Pellegrini, and Pellegrini are the only ones that are actually in their club for between 3 to 5 years. Everyone else gets sacked within 2 if they don't do their job. That's the way it is now, man.
That's a good point. Stricto, same question to you. If it's not working out, come next season, do you pull the plug quick, or do you give him time and say, look, we believe in the process? What's your thoughts?
I think ultimately there's a time when a question needs to be asked. As much as I'm an advocate for Arteta, there's a time when the question needs to be asked, like pound for pound.
Okay, so let's say the season starts in August. Let's say we get to the end of October and you're thinking, rah, man, the results are a bit up and down. Do you pull the trigger then, or do you say we'll give him till January, or do you say we're going to keep faith in him? What do you do?
Oh, I mean, at that point, then it's hard to really argue it. Do you know what I'm saying? It's hard. It's hard to argue it, because then you start kind of sounding like you've got posters of this guy on your wall, and not of Arsenal. And yeah, I don't know if you can see my wall, bro. There's no posters there. Do you get what I'm saying? So it comes to the point. Look, I'm all about logic. At times, I'm all about emotion as well. You know what I'm saying? And more time, I'm more emotional than I am logical. Most people that know me, it's everything's 100%. But with Arteta, I don't know whether it sits on the logic or with the emotion. I really struggle to find out, am I sentimental to this guy, or because as a player and as an Arsenal captain, I hated the guy. I wanted him. Honestly, I was done with him for almost like the whole Odegaard thing. Let's get this guy out, man. He slows down the midfield. He's past his prime. Arteta at Everton earlier, would have profited from having him then, but we got him a bit too late. But now, it's just, I don't know whether he's got to me emotionally where I'm like, I can see what he's done. I can see the mud he took us out of. But ultimately, bro, it is about trophies. It is about bragging rights. And he's not giving me that. So why should I then give him all this respect and credit that I'm giving him? Do you understand? But I'm just stuck on and also when I look at the club and the culture of the club, we're a club, I can literally name every manager that has been an Arsenal manager since I've been supporting the club. Graham, Riot, Wenger, if you wanna put Ljungberg in there, and Emery. Watford have had that in how many? Watford have had 5 of those in the last 15, 18 months. Chelsea. Do you know what I'm saying? There's a culture at the club that I came into, that I respect, that I enjoy, but also that culture came with winning trophies. Do you know what I'm saying? Keeping those guys there, they got you the trophies. George Graham, whether it's Wenger. But then the argument is, we did have a serial winner with Emery, who was a specialist in Europa. He was a specialist in that competition, and you thought, you know what, this makes sense. We're in a Europa final, and then look what happened. We got asses handed to us by our London rival. So sometimes, like what Dan is saying, it doesn't always work with the proven winners. And I'm not saying that. I understand the caveat is Emery hasn't had the time Arteta's had, and Emery hasn't had the windows that Arteta's had. I get that. But for me, if you're a serial winner, that's what you do. There's no excuses. You're in a final, you get it over the line. You lean on your experience. You lean on what you've got. I mean, you got them to the final, right? So you've done something there. So yeah, that's what I'm saying. But ultimately, for me, this window's important, and if he can't get the most out of the new common players, because I don't want players for the future. I want players now. I want players that are going to come in and get straight to it. I don't want no excuses of, you got to get, no. We need to stop doing that. We need to start going for players who are ready to just fit in and get on with it.
Okay, thanks. Well, we'll come to the end of the show now, guys. Some great comments made by both of you two. It's a subject that we could talk all night for, you know what I mean? And we will revisit this, I'm sure, not just myself, but other presenters on AFTV. I'm sure we'll have similar live shows. Like I said, following the disappointment of yesterday, there was a lot of talk about where we're going as a club now, and obviously the manager gets brought into that equation. For me, I would just say this, that I think he is a good manager. He has had a lot to deal with during his 5.5-year tenure. He's transitioned the club. I mean, we were a bit chaotic when he took over. He won a trophy in his first season. And he's, took us to the brink last year with the title challenge. But, to be fair, also, he's had a lot of money to spend and he's had a lot of time. And as you guys both said it, you both articulated it well. A club like Arsenal, the size of the club, we need to be winning things now. And we've not seen that for a while. And so the jury is definitely out. He's not going to get sacked or be removed. I don't think he'll leave. Some people have said that he might walk in the summer. I don't know. I don't see that happening either. So we await next season with bated breath. But anyway, thanks to my guy, Dan. Respect, bro. Thanks for coming on the show. Man. Really appreciate it.
No, come on. Appreciate you having me.
No problem at all. I think it's been an excellent show. I would say that, wouldn't I? But no, I genuinely do think we had a really good discussion. Almost therapeutic, if you like, following what happened last night. And thanks to everybody that watched. Thanks to everybody that submitted comments and super chats. Thanks to you all. And we'll see you shortly. We're out. Take care. And enjoy the weekend.